In today's video, we're taking glue drops to a whole new level. We're going to use some cheesecloth, some old buttons, and a few simple products to create not one, but two beautiful pieces of art. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Why, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another video. I'm back after my week vacation, and I have two brand new ideas for you to create some amazing art decor for your home. So we're going to start off with this clay vase that I found at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to spray paint it black. Now, you can do this with acrylic paint, just so you know. I just prefer to use spray paint. And I chose black for a specific reason, and you will see why in the end. Now you can choose any color you want. It would look beautiful in blue, purple, gold, whatever. So we're going to take some cheesecloth. We're going to cut a piece of that, and we're going to just shred it apart. We're going to pull it apart so it's frayed. With this cheesecloth and the technique I'm going to be doing, it's going to create an amazing texture. So you want to take some glue. It could be Mod Podge, it could be school glue. I just chose this tacky glue because I had it. And you want to put some in a cup and water it down a little bit so that it's pretty thin. You want to kind of baste the cheesecloth in the glue, so you want to be able to brush it on. So I put about a teaspoon of glue in there and 5 pumps of water from my spray bottle, mixed it around, and you'll see it creates a runny texture, or a runny consistency, I should say. So that's what we're looking for. The next thing you're going to do is paint that glue onto the area of the vase where you want your cheesecloth to be. Now, it doesn't have to be the exact width of the cheesecloth, because we're going to kind of mold this into a random pattern on the vase. So if it's a little bit wider, it's fine. Glue dries clear. You're not going to see it in the end because we're going to paint over this when it's dry. So just place some of that glue mixture on your surface and put the cheesecloth down on top of it. And then you want to come in with more of your glue mixture and go over the top of it to seal it in. I mentioned two ideas. I also have a board that I'm making a piece of art the same way. So I'm going to show you how to do this technique on both pieces, but I'm not going to show you the process, the full process on each piece. I'll show you the steps and then show you how it looked on each piece, if that makes sense. So anyway, here's the board I had. It was, I think, 8 inches wide by 20 inches long. And again, I wanted to put some cheesecloth running down the center. And then once I'm done with this step on both pieces, I let them dry thoroughly, and this is what it looks like. I'm then going to take it outside and spray paint it again. But again, if you want to use acrylic paint, you can do so. So the vase is dry, the board is dry. I'm going to spray paint it flat black with this Krylon spray paint. And this is what it looks like when it's done, okay? And you definitely want to spray paint it before you go any further so that it all is covered in the end. So now this is where my old buttons came into play. I wanted to use these buttons for something, but I didn't want it to look like buttons in the end. So what I came up with was putting a dollop of hot glue over the holes so that when I paint it, you will not see those holes. I also wanted to make layers, like have a little button sandwich with different size buttons stacked up on top of each other. So I put down a nice dollop of hot glue and then placed one of my little button sandwiches on top so that we would have different layers. And with my large button stash, I created different sizes of buttons with different layers. Some had only 2 layers, some had 4 layers. I wanted different dimensions. But I also wanted to utilize that hot glue drop as a shape in my painting as well. So you'll see here, I put down a little button on top of that big button, and then I just finished it off with a little hot glue drop on top. So this is why I spray paint the bottom first, because once I add something like this to the board, it's going to block a lot of the areas and make it hard to paint underneath the buttons. And you're going to see some of the colors. So spray painting or painting in steps will help ensure full coverage on this piece. So now I'm going to take some of my button sandwiches and glue them down to the board and onto the vase. I'm going to choose an odd number. I find the odd numbers are good. So I went with, I believe, 9, and I just attached them to the board. I highly recommend you place these around the board first so you can kind of get a feel of where your design is going to go. If you glue them down, they're on there permanently. I mean, you'd really have to pry them off with something really sharp to get it back up. So just lay it out first. Try to get some kind of a design in your head and then glue them down. So we're not only going to be using these button sandwiches, as I'm calling them, as focal points. Well, they're going to be the main focal points, but we're going to be adding in more to this painting that really ties it all together. And that step is coming up next. Stick with me here. I promise you this turns out fantastic. Make sure you get rid of your glue strings before you finish your project and like put the varnish on and all that, or spray paint it, because those will show up in the finished work. And now we move on to the second part, which is going to be adding glue drop patterns in between all the buttons in the open areas. And you want to just make different sizes of glue drops because it really adds interest and depth and a really, really pretty look to this piece of art. So I kind of just, wing it, just some big, some small. I make little patterns. And again, we're using 2 pieces of substrate here, a vase and a board. And I told you I wasn't going to show you the full process for each because it's literally the same thing. So on the vase, I'm now gluing down my little button sandwiches, and I'm going to make the glue drops on this as well in the open areas. There's nothing I love more than texture art. There are so many possibilities of items that you could use for texture. Anything from eggshells to old buttons, as you see today, sand mixed into your acrylic paint. Like there are countless possibilities. So you could come up with some really cool ideas. And the thing is that I sell at craft fairs, and these projects are always the first to sell because they're so unique. But anyway, here's what the board looks like so far. And then we're going to take the board and the vase outside and again, either paint it all black or spray paint. Spray paint is really the easiest way to go, but I know a lot of people don't want to deal with that. So you can use whatever color you want. Again, it doesn't have to be black. Acrylic paint. Did you notice there that I missed a button, a glue drop in the center of it? So I had to go back and fix that. But yeah, I love this. And I hope you do too. But now don't worry. We're going to have some color in this piece. I had these little blue buttons that are so beautiful. It's like a peacock teal color. So I decided to incorporate them again, putting the glue drop in the center so that you cannot tell it's a button. And then I got out my gold mica powder and painted with a dry brush the mica powder over the glue dot. The cool thing about hot glue is it dries with a tacky surface. So this mica powder clings and does not come off. So I put some over the glue dot, cleaned up the outside border of the button to get it off of there. I had to use a paper towel because the mica is messy, so I just cleaned it up with the paintbrush, another dry paintbrush, my finger, paper towel, just to clean up the rim and make it really shiny again. And then I made a bunch of those. And these, along with the next step I'm going to show you, brings this painting and this vase up to a whole other dimension. But look how pretty that is. I love that teal. Oh, it's so pretty. Now I would love to use some of this gold on my actual canvas or piece of wood in my vase, but I can't just brush it on because it has nothing to cling to. So I'm going to add a little bit of this varnish into it. I would highly recommend a varnish. A glue, even if it dries clear, will probably make it a little bit dulled out. But I'm going to show you a close-up here right now. When this varnish hits this mica powder, it looks like molten gold. Look at this. I'll be sure to leave a link in the description for a mica powder like this, but it is just so pretty. I love that look. So I mix it all together, and this is what it looks like. Molten gold. Look at that. What we're going to do is we're going to take our paintbrush, and we're going to put the smallest amount, and I mean very, very tiny, okay? Because this stuff goes a long way. And as a matter of fact, I mixed up way too much. I had a lot left over. So just that little bit will cover probably about a 3-inch area, 2 to 3-inch area. I literally just put it on the tiny tip of the brush. And you don't want to put a lot because you don't want to saturate it, right? You just want to highlight the glue dots and the cheesecloth. You just want it to start popping out of that canvas. So brush over it lightly. Don't use a lot of pressure, and you'll grab all that texture and highlight it, and you'll end up with a really, really beautiful painting. As for the buttons, we're going to do the same thing, except me personally, I just like to highlight the ridges of them. I don't want to cover the entire thing in gold, although you can do whatever you want. If you want bright gold buttons on that canvas, or if you're using a metallic blue color, I would suggest, if you're using a dark background like this, to use something that's really bright, like a metallic acrylic paint if you don't have the mica powder. But it, again, though, it could look really well even with like a light lilac color. It doesn't have to be metallic. You know, the world is your oyster, my friend. So many possibilities. But anyway, you can see here, I'm kind of just brushing up on the sides of the buttons just to highlight the dimension in it. And this just turned out so unique. It reminds me of steampunk, if you're into that type of art. Again, this is just my idea. You could come up with so many different ideas to make a painting like this. It doesn't have to be buttons. It could be whatever. I mean, just use your imagination. So I finish highlighting all of the areas. I want to leave the black areas alone. I want that negative space in the background. And now I'm going to glue on these final buttons, and that is really going to make it stand out. It's going to tie the painting up and make it a complete package. Same thing with the vase. Again, I didn't want to show you all the steps for each thing I was making because it's just a lot of the same thing. And yeah, I really love these little turquoise pops here and there on the background. So my friends, I really hope you enjoyed this video today. I'm going to show you the final results now, and thank you for joining me. Here it is. It's a very unique. Again, I love the negative space of the black in the background. It's just a really cool piece of art. Again, if you sell at the craft fairs like I do, type pieces of art like this is what makes me stand out from other vendors that are doing just typical types of acrylic pour paintings or resin geodes. You want to be unique. You want to make something that others don't. And I really hope if you do sell at the fairs that you try something like this, because I'm telling you, this will sell. You got to have a different type of flavor for different type of clients. Not everyone wants a floral painting. Some people like that metal look. So before I say goodbye, I have one tip for you. When it comes to using that mica powder, make sure you don't handle your products after with your dirty mica fingers like I do. You see that little smudge there? I'm so mad at myself. Now I have to paint it again, but try to be careful. I use gloves all the time, but I took my gloves off, closed the cap on the mica, and then picked up my vase, and that's how I transferred those fingerprints. So yeah, just be wary and try to keep it clean. But anyway, I'll fix that up. Thank you so very much for joining, my friends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click that like button, leave a comment. Even if you want to leave me a little heart emoji, I would appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that button on the way out and the notification bell. And again, all the products I use are listed in the description below, besides the used buttons, obviously. I love you all. I want to thank you so very much for joining me. And until the next time, which is next Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, happy creating!